What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com, a fan-sided network. It is mock draft week, everyone. The first time ever, the Men in Stripes mock draft. So Matthew and I couldn't be by ourselves. Let's go ahead and bring in the excellent panel. Tim Dandy here, excited for a very special show of Men in Stripes, none other than my excellent co-host, co-editor of StripeHype.com, Mr. Matthew Wilson.
What's up, Tim?
How are you, man?
I'm good, and of course we've got for finally the other co-editor of Stripe Hype, and with Dylan, and a familiar sound from a few weeks ago, in Sean.
What's up?
Hey, guys.
How's it
Thanks for
going?
having me, guys.
Good. Thank you guys for joining us. This is going to be really fun. A whole thing we've never done before, so this is going to be a little trial and error, but I think we got this figured out, so I'm pumped.
Let's see how this goes. I've never done one like on time before, so this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know. I haven't either. So, for you, our fans, let you know what's going on with this week's edition. It is mock draft week. So we are going to do our version of the 2016 first round of the NFL draft. As we know, it takes place in 8 days. Unlike the real NFL draft, you will not hear trades from us. We will go with how it currently is. So the Rams and the Eagles having the first 2 picks after today's trade, we will be going just that exact route. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to go ahead and put the St. Louis Rams on the clock. So Mr. Matthew Wilson, you are on the clock.
So with the easiest pick of the NFL draft,
Right.
the LA Rams
Ooh.
choose Carson Wentz, quarterback, North Dakota State.
So you're going Carson over Goff.
I just think that's how it's going to be. It's not so much the fact that, and we've had this discussion, that I think that Wentz is the better option, although Goff and Wentz are fairly close, at least eyeing them up together. Goff just hasn't had the under center experience that Wentz has. So Wentz comes off to LA as a little more NFL ready, at least week 1 wise.
Okay. All right. So I guess that makes it easy for me. With the second pick of the Philadelphia Eagles by way of trade with the Cleveland Browns, Jared Goff, quarterback of California. Obviously, we know the Pac-12 atmosphere. He's played in big stadiums before. It's kind of the easy pick there, like I said, with Doug Peterson being a quarterback guy. I've taken that circumstance there. So the easiest 2 picks probably in the last 10 years, well, probably since Winston Mariota last year, honestly, going Jared Goff. So now we go to the San Diego Superchargers with Dylan Teston.
Yeah, I'm going to take the best player on the board, Jalen Ramsey. In my opinion, the number 1 player in the draft. Defensive back out of Florida State. Can do it all. Mainly going to play the safety, take over for Eric Weddle's vacancy. He can do it all, though. He's a phenomenal talent. He's going to be an impact player in the league for numerous years.
Yeah, I agree. I like that pick a lot. I love Ramsey. All right, Sean, you are the Dallas Cowboys at pick 4. Where are we going with that?
Dallas Cowboys are going to go with Joey Bosa, defensive end from Ohio State, and here's why. Greg Hardy's obviously gone. Randy Gregory doesn't seem to have it together, and they don't really seem to have many pass rushers on that team. Joey Bosa might not be the greatest pass rusher in this draft, but he's certainly the most NFL ready. He's a great run defender. He knows how to get in the backfield. He might have a couple double-digit sack seasons here and there, but I think overall he's going to be a very solid contribution and someone to look forward to.
All right, I think that's fair, yeah. I know Bosa's a kind of a big name there for sure. So that brings us to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Back to you, Matthew.
A little bit harder since, of course, Joey Bosa's off the board, and so is Jalen Ramsey. But I'm going to protect the franchise quarterback here. I'm going to go Laramie Tunsil, offensive tackle, Ole Miss. I think protecting Blake Bortles is going to be a big piece, as well as giving them kind of a spur from the backfield in blocking, and definitely something that they need a little bit more of is protection on that offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. I guess I'll follow your lead there too at the Baltimore Ravens. I'll take Ronnie Stanley. Not just because he's my boy, but I think when you look at that, they're definitely the 2 best tackles. I know a lot of people like Jack Conklin a lot, but Baltimore's offensive line, as we saw last year, struggled quite a bit. And I think Stanley's going to be an offensive lineman, an offensive tackle you can look forward to for a good 10 to 12 years in the league.
Yeah, I like the Stanley pick by you right there. As you mentioned, Baltimore needs the help, especially protecting Joe Flacco coming off an injury-ridden season. San Francisco at 7. I'm going to stay in the trenches. DeForest Buckner, or defensive end out of Oregon, great pass rusher, great talent. Is really going to help revitalize a defense that lost pretty much everyone 2 off seasons ago. It's going to be a huge piece for them to get a good pass rusher out of this draft.
Right on. So, Sean, where are the Cleveland Browns going at 8 after today's trade?
They're going to go with Miles Jack, outside linebacker. And let me tell you, if he's there at number 8, they're running that podium. I mean, sure, there's some medical red flags, but this guy is a playmaker. He's, I really am not going to look forward to playing him twice a season, but you have to take Miles Jack. He's just too talented to pass up.
All right. Yeah, there we go. Matthew, you there?
I'm here. Kind of a hard one for Tampa Bay, because they have plenty of needs and then they don't have plenty of needs. I think overall they need to get better on defense, which is why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will take Vernon Hargreaves, the 3rd out of Florida, cornerback. Good speed, good coverage, still young. 5'10's a little bit small for me in terms of corner, but he has good coverage skills that we've seen in Florida. But definitely something that they need to work on, especially defense-wise, is in the passing defense. Hence why I think he fits well there.
All right. Was that a trade? Did we get a trade update there?
No, not quite.
Okay. All right. Just had to double check at this day and age. All right. So rounding out the top 10, the New York Football Giants. I think it's time we take a running back on the board. Who better than probably the best offensive skill player in the draft? I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott there for the Giants. I think with the receiving core of Odell Beckham, I know they're going to need a little bit of help, obviously, because he can't do everything for this team. They don't know what they're getting from Victor Cruz, obviously, if he's going to be healthy there. We don't really know what the backfield is going to consist of this year, so I think Zeke at number 10 in the Meadowlands is going to be a nice pick for them.
I love that pick for the Giants. I was actually going to take him for Chicago. Chicago's going to lean on the other side of the ball, though. In this draft, Leonard Floyd, linebacker out of Georgia. He's a speed rusher off the edge, and he's going to help bring a little bit of energy to a revitalized defense this offseason that just got a couple pieces of help with Danny Trevathan and Floyd this offseason in the draft.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do have to ask one question, though. How did it feel drafting for the most hated enemy of your, well, at least former writing team?
I mean, I'm not a huge Bears hater, but I would like to see them be good just to bring a little bit of life back to the rivalry.
Had to get that question out.
No, I completely understandable.
This is going a hell of a lot faster than I thought it would. You guys can take your time. So, with that being said, Sean, you are number 12 with the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints? You know, I was thinking about offensive tackle, but, I mean, Shaq Lawson, defensive end, Clemson, you can never have too many pass rushers. Him with Cameron Jordan, I mean, it's just not fair for defenses. I mean, offensive lines, wow. It just needs to happen, I'm not going to lie. That defense was dreadful. The only way that you're going to get better is basically getting to the quarterback. And there's not really a cornerback that, I think would fit them right now. So I'm going to go with defensive end, and Shaq Lawson, I think, is a good fit there.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, actually. I like Lawson a ton. That Clemson defense was really good, obviously. I mean, the only team that really could give Alabama a run for their money, and he was kind of the helm of that team for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Matt?
I know, I'm looking. You said to take time, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to take CBS Sports advice on the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are going to take Jack Conklin, let's try pronouncing his name right, offensive tackle, Michigan State. Definitely something that, again, another team that lacked a little bit of protection for their so-called franchise quarterback in Tannehill. So giving him a little protection there, obviously. Conklin is well known for protecting Connor Cook, who in many ways tore up the Big Ten this past season. So definitely has the right experience there.
All right, so that leads to the Oakland Raiders here. And I'm going to say, Sean, you hit the nail on the head taking Shaq Lawson. I'm going to take his running mate here. I think with the loss of Justin Tuck to retirement and everything the Raiders are doing in free agency and how much they've stacked that team up, you're right. You can't have too many pass rushers. So I'm going to go Kevin Dodd here. I think as far as those two as a team, they were outstanding. You're going to put him on a defense of Khalil Mack. And all the moves that Oakland's made and the signings of linebacker and everything. There's a lot to look forward to in Oakland for that team with that addition.
Oh yeah.
I really like that Dodd pick right there. Playing opposite Khalil Mack will be huge. He's not going to have as much of the pressure as he would going to a lesser team. That Raiders defense is going to be actually scary next year, which is something I've never been able to say before in my life. That leads me to the Tennessee Titans, moving down from the pick number 1 last week. Taylor Decker, offensive tackle, Ohio State. Decker fits that system perfectly. Taylor Lewan doesn't want to play the right side, so they can keep him at the left tackle. And then Decker will provide a huge protection for Marcus Mariota, their franchise quarterback, going into his second year at the right tackle.
You mean the guy that ruined Jalen Smith's first-round draft stock?
Yeah, that guy right there.
Well, for me, with the Detroit Lions, I'm going to go with defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins. They no longer have Fairley. They no longer have Sue. And they need someone up front. And Rankins, I think, is probably the most underrated defensive player in this draft. He can you can set him up, either defensive tackle position, nose tackle, pass rush. He can do it all. And I think that, if they get him in the lineup, that defense can actually, start getting more pressure once again like they used to. And I could honestly see Rankins being Sue 2.0, except without, stomping people in the chest or anything like that.
So
I like that pick, yeah.
Quick question, because I thought I wrote it down and I didn't. Who did we have Chicago taking?
Leonard Floyd.
That's right.
Leonard Floyd. There we go. I was going to say, that way I can keep my stuff up to snuff here. Plus, I'm thinking about actually putting this on our lovely breakdown that we put on our site every week. So
Yeah, we should.
So that way people can actually follow it. So that leaves me with Atlanta, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're on with the Falcons.
I am on with the Falcons. Obviously, they don't need a wide receiver. We know that well. After the Mohamed Sanu acquisition. Let's see. Sad thing is I should ask one of my good buddies, and I'm not using a lifeline here.
Sure about that?
No, I'm not. That is not my final answer. Yeah, let's do it. We're going to go with the 17th pick. The Atlanta Falcons will take Darren Lee, outside linebacker from Ohio State. Again, pass rushing is something that they need, but somebody who has speed and can also drop into coverage. Darren Lee has both, and I think he fits well, at least from a standpoint that I think he can do both. Team that seemed to at least start to find its way offensively with their new acquisition. They definitely have a clear-cut number 1 and number 2 there on offense with wide receiver. So I think they need to just kind of seal up their defense with that pick.
I'm
I
gonna
think
take the
that's
first.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think that's a great pick, by the way. He'd fit perfectly in Dan Quinn's system, and would be able to play across from Vic Beasley, who was a rookie last year for the Falcons.
Yeah, I like that pick too. I'm gonna take the first reach of this draft, guys. I think we've been pretty even as far as like rank, position, everything that. We know the Colts last year really struggled when we thought when they were making all these signings of these guys that are should be in retirement homes. This is a team that needs a lot of needs for Andrew Luck on the offensive side, whether that be offensive line or now with the loss of Colby Flinger, tight end. So that's actually where I'm going to go with this pick. It's a little high, but I think it's a really good fit for the Colts and the way they do things with their offense. I'm going to take Hunter Henry from Arkansas here. I think that Andrew Luck really likes to use those 2 tight ends and everything that they have there currently. They already have the wide receiver T.Y. Hilton. The backfield's a huge question with Gore and Bradshaw, but I think they'll probably try to attack that in round 2. But I think Henry's going to be a good fit there. It'll be one of Andrew Luck's new best friends.
Yeah, it's a solid pick. Moving on to Buffalo at 19. I think they get this guy, but I think they actually end up trading up for him, but that's not how we're running this one. Paxton Lynch, quarterback out of Memphis. They're looking for their guy with the uncertainty of Tyrod Taylor coming into this offseason and not everything that's been going on between him and the franchise. I think they're going to be looking for their new guy. And Rex Ryan will be looking for his running mate for that season.
Of course, you would take the guy that I was looking at.
Absolutely, that's why I did it.
I knew it. But, all right, New York Jets. Who am I going to... Well, I think what I'm going to do, the Jets are going to select Noah Spence, defensive end from Eastern Kentucky.
Oh!
Yeah.
I love that pick.
He... tremendous speed. Oh my gosh. He just abuses offensive tackles. I mean, he's so fast off the edge. He's agile. He can just weave around anybody. I mean, he's probably the best pass rusher in this draft. I mean, the biggest thing is character concerns. I mean, that's really what's dropping him. Or else, honestly, I think he's a top 10 pick, no doubt. But with those off the field concerns, you got to let him slide a little bit. But I think if the Jets can get him, you take him. He slid too far.
Can I say something about the Jets quickly?
Yeah.
I really think they're going to end up in the top 5 of this draft. With Muhammad Wilkerson holding out, I think he's going to be a trade piece. And them going to get Paxton Lynch, who, honestly, it's either them or Buffalo that I think are quietly going to move up into that top 5.
I wouldn't be surprised if Denver moves up either.
Yeah, I think that one would shock me a little bit, but the way the Jets have been, I really think that they're going to be a player in the Paxton Lynch contest.
Oh, yeah. That's why I was hoping he'd fall, but nope, didn't happen.
Oh, yeah. I know, I wish we could do some trades because I would have done some goofy things.
This show would literally take till about 2 o'clock in the morning to get done.
Oh, yeah.
And that would usually mean that somebody would have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round of somebody's draft at that point, just to get a draft done. So with that, 21st pick, Washington Redskins. I think this is almost a no-brainer. I think they go Reggie Ragland, inside linebacker, Alabama. Good size, good run tackling. Again, kind of seals up the middle a little bit in the pass game, but I think they bring him more in to help the run defense and help to plug up some holes that offenses can create for these running backs. So I think that he's going to be a decent value pick. I know he's ranked, a couple of different sites have him ranked number 15 overall in the draft. So that would be a nice little drop there for Washington.
Yeah, I think that's a steal for them certainly there. So I got the Houston Texans at 22. It's time to go to trend the wide receivers that we keep reading out in mock drafts at the end of the first round. I'm going to go Laquan Treadwell here. Even though I've said on a couple weeks ago, I think he's my fourth as far as the top 5 wide receivers I was mentioning. I think that he'll be a good fit for Houston, for Brock Osweiler. Obviously, playing across from DeAndre Hopkins doesn't hurt that at all by any means. I think Treadwell in the right system is going to be a star. I just don't love him the way everyone else does. And I think Houston would be a really good place for him because they have a lot of weapons already on offense, and just adding him is only going to make that better.
That will be a huge addition to that offense. I know a lot of people turned away from Treadwell when he ran that 4.64 40, but he's a big receiver, big hands, doesn't really need the speed. That's not his type of game. That leads me into the Minnesota pick at 23. You're going to stick with your trend here that you just started. I'm going to go Josh Doctson, wide receiver out of TCU. It's going to be huge for Teddy Bridgewater to get a couple more weapons. Dotson will be outstanding on third downs, where the Vikings just were awful last season. They really need to get Bridgewater some help if they want him to prove that he's a franchise quarterback. So that's why Dotson's going to be the guy for them.
Plus, we already know he looks good in purple.
Yeah.
Good point. All right, Sean, this is it. You have the Bengals pick, and you know everyone in Houday Land is going to be paying very close attention to who you take here.
So no pressure whatsoever.
None at all.
It's all right. Everyone's either gonna love me or hate me, but I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this. But the 24th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals are gonna select Corey Coleman. Now, I'm higher on Josh Doctson, but I mean, obviously he's gone right now. But Corey Coleman, I think, is a very interesting prospect in that we haven't seen him reach his ceiling. In Baylor, he didn't really run, that big of a route tree, which might take some time for him to implement and, get used to in the NFL. But I think once you look at his skill set, there's really nothing he can't do. He has to, work on, obviously, route running a little bit and, pass catching a little bit. But it's nothing too red flaggy. But I think he's the perfect complement for A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert. I mean, he's the speed guy that we need. He's going to make people miss. I think he, in the long run, is going to be a huge red zone weapon. I mean, he had 20 touchdowns last season.
He had 20 touchdowns in the Big 12. Let's be fair here. I'm with you. I love him. He was my number one. But it's the Big 12. I mean, the quarterbacks throw 76 times a game.
Yeah.
He played in that air raid offense that kind of helped out his numbers a little bit there.
Yeah, I do love the pick. Like I said, I named him and Fuller as my top 2 wide receivers in this draft. So I'm with you.
So that leaves me with the most hated team in Houday Land.
Yeah.
But the plus side is, and Sean can speak to this. I know the Steelers way too well, and that's the fact that they don't go by needs. They go by who's the best player on the board. And that best player on the board would be A'Shawn Robbins, defensive tackle from Alabama. Granted, they do need still some defensive line help, although we saw probably the biggest man in the NFL playing for them. But again, they do need a little bit of help, of course. They have some players there, but defensive tackle is still a weak point for them. Defensive end is really their strong point. And so A'Shawn is not a terrible pick. It's not a terrible thing where they don't need somebody there. They definitely need secondary a little more. But if knowing Kevin Colbert whatsoever in his past trends, he goes best player on the board, and that would be A'Shawn at this point.
Okay. So I'm going to be Seattle here. And Sean, you already touched on Noah Spence, who I thought would be perfect for Seattle when I talked about this a couple weeks ago. But I'm going to go and take the risk here. This is a low risk, high reward. Risk reward kind of player. And Robert Nchingwe from Ole Miss. We know he's talented. We know the skill he has. We know how good he is. But it goes back to those character concerns. It goes back to the work ethic and things like that. But I think the 12th man would love this guy. I think that he would fit very well in that Seattle defense, especially in that line with guys like Michael Bennett. And I think that he would fit perfectly in Seattle. So I'm going to say I think Chingwei would be the guy here. And Dylan, how about that? That worked out to where you actually do get the Packers pick.
Okay, so this is probably the toughest team to pick. That's why when you ask me, I'm like, it don't matter to me if I get him or not. But, you know, you can think they're going to grab someone, and then all of a sudden they grab like a Demarius Randall like they did last year out of nowhere. But the 27, Green Bay, needing a defensive tackle to replace B.J. Raji, who they lost in the offseason. I'm going to go with Jerron Reed out of Alabama. He's one of the more physical players in this year's draft. He's a very good athlete for what a 310-pound man would think would be. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, he was phenomenal. Was able to make plays downfield, which a lot of defensive tackles, as soon as the ball gets past the line of scrimmage, it's all over for them. Was outstanding to watch him play. So Reed's a guy at 27. It's a great pick by them.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with Kansas City, they lost Sean Smith. So I'm going to go with, and this is just a personal favorite of mine, I'm going to go with Mackenzie Alexander, cornerback from Clemson.
Nice.
I really like this guy. He might not be the playmaker who's going to be a ball hawk. That's not really his forte. He's more of a stay on his guy type cornerback. He doesn't allow separation. He's going to make he's very, how do I say, he's physical. He knows how to mirror. He has very, very, very quick hips. And, I mean, he ran a 4.47. I mean, I honestly think he's going to be one of the best cornerbacks from this draft period. I think he, honestly, is the third best in my opinion. I mean, sure, his height is really the big question mark. But outside of that, I mean, he's the next Jason Barrett to me.
It's good. I like that comparison a lot, actually.
So
I was actually very high on Barrett, but
so since the New England Patriots forfeited their pick, does that mean I get skipped? You're not gonna let me off the hook, are you?
Do you not want to pick for the Cardinals?
No, I have no problem picking for the Cardinals, and that is Brian Kelly, center from Alabama. Didn't have too many issues in the blocking aspect for Carson Palmer, but I think, again, another team that's starting to age. Brian Kelly would be a great fit there. Gives them another aspect to kind of go off of on that offensive line, keeping Carson Palmer a little bit more healthy and a little more upright. I think he's got good timing. Definitely knows how to work with his quarterback to make sure that they're on the same page. We didn't see too many false starts from him in Alabama for pre-snapping the ball, or we didn't see too many missed snaps from him either. So I think he's a solid option there.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think that's a fair pick. So before today's news of Josh Norman, I would have totally taken Foley here for the Panthers because I thought he'd fit in really well with Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen and that Cam Newton offense of just get downfield and I'll find you. But we did find out today that Josh Norman gets his franchise tag taken off for Carolina. He is now officially an unrestricted free agent. It doesn't look like he's going to be going back to Carolina by the way of the conversations we saw from Jerry Reese today. So we got to fill that corner spot here, guys. And I think Artie Burns from the University of Miami is going to be the pick here. I like Artie a lot. I know a lot of people have him at teetering like late first to mid-second area. A Miami defense that during his time there did not have a lot to write home about. He stood out on every game they played. Played a big step, played a lot of big games, covered a lot of really good ACC wide receivers. So I think when he comes here to such circumstance, he's going to go to a team that's really good already. And I think he's going to be able to plug in and play in that starting corner position pretty fast for them.
Yeah, it's a good filler for Josh Norman, like you said. Shocked NFL world when he was announced that he had his franchise tag removed, now an unrestricted free agent. But going to the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, after losing Malik Jackson first week of free agency, right off the bat, they're going to need a nose tackle. Andrew Billings is that guy. Billings is going to be a huge upgrade. to a defense that lost quite a bit of talent. Coming out of Baylor, wasn't really the most run-heavy defense, but he's probably the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in this draft, right after Rankins. Could be a huge addition for this Broncos defense.
Honestly, Billings is one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I mean, he's just so strong, especially for his size. And honestly, at 24, I was kind of debating between him and Coleman. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think when watching him at Baylor, I watched 3 games worth of tape, and it was outstanding watching. He blows up offenses.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's what made it tough because I mean I love Billings, but at the same time, like, there is a huge need at wide receiver, and not really sure in the second round we're gonna find our number 2, because I feel like there's gonna be another run on wide receiver, and I feel like it'd be a lot earlier than where the Bengals pick.
Yeah, that's my feeling too.
I agree with that too. I mean, the second round's going to have good wideouts there. Michael Thomas will probably be there in the second round too. I like Michael Thomas a lot. The way we drafted Will Fuller is going to be in the second round. We all know my feelings about that pick.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a ton of guys there, and but it's like once you get past those like first 5 or 6 wide receivers, I would say Braxton probably being the last in that like prospect group. It feels like it's kind of like a die from there.
Oh yeah.
This
And, go on.
ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm looking at it. There's so many more. It's a lot deeper class at defensive tackle. I mean, Sheldon Day, for instance, Austin Johnson. There's a lot more defensive tackle, prospects that I would definitely love in like the second, third round. But then whenever you look at the wide receivers that could be there, it's like, all right, you kind of have to take one now, or else you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Especially, go ahead.
The wide receiver class as a whole, compared to the past 2 years, just downhill. Like you said, if you don't get one early, you can almost wait until third, fourth round. Grabbing a guy like Malcolm Mitchell out of Georgia, grabbing a guy like that, it's not a big, huge drop off from a guy that you could grab in the second round.
Oh yeah.
I think the group that shocks me the most in this draft is the running backs. Like, because after Zeke, it's like a huge drop in talent. Like, there's Derrick Henry, and I mean, a lot of people like him a lot. I'm a little indifferent about his NFL game, just because Alabama running backs, as we've seen in the NFL, minus 1 or 2. Then you have, the CJ Prosises of the world. You have, what's the kid from Louisiana Tech? I'm having a brain fart here. Kenneth Dixon?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
That was what shocked me, is just the running back drop-off after Elliott.
Well, the thing about the running back class is that there's guys in the fourth round, Paul Perkins out of UCLA, Kenneth Dixon, I can't think of the running back's name I'm thinking of. Oh, Kenyon Drake out of Alabama. Those are guys that can have a huge impact on teams, and they're going to be available in the 4th or 5th round.
Oh yeah.
My favorite positional group out of this whole draft, after the defensive tackles, probably the secondary. There's guys that are going to be huge playmakers. You have guys like Artie Burns, as I think it was Sean mentioned. I don't remember who mentioned it, but Artie Burns. You have guys flying under the radar like Jalen Mills out of LSU, who could be huge impact on defenses. And then obviously you have the guys at the top, Vernon Hargraves and Jalen Ramsey, that are just studs and going to be, all pro players for the next 10 years.
Another thing I just realized is that safety kind of wasn't even picked anywhere in the first round. So I think, I mean, if there's a decent safety for the second round for Cincinnati, I mean, you need to take that. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Carl Joseph. I'm not gonna lie, and if he's there in the second round, I'd have to take him. I'm sorry. I mean, I really like Sean Williams, but I just like Carl Joseph so much.
Well, I think it was a couple weeks ago that show Matthew and I basically drooled over Von Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I love that kid.
Well, the other thing we talked about a little bit of, and kind of make safety a little less, and probably make corner a little bit more of a a need for the Bengals would be possibly dropping Adam Jones back into a safety position, make him more of a kind of a freelance guy, and bringing in maybe a young guy to take over a corner spot. So you still have somebody like Adam Jones to mentor the corner, but at the same time, less wear on him himself, especially if they continue to use him as a kick returner, punt returner type guy. And that would be something that I would be perfectly okay with, because I think his adjustment there would actually be pretty easy, which would take safety a little bit further down the board for the Bengals.
Yeah, kind of hit on what you just said. It would kind of replicate what the Raiders did with Charles Woodson last season. Adam Jones isn't the caliber player that Charles Woodson has been in his career. I might get a little backlash for that, but he's not that kind of caliber. He's not that kind of caliber of player, but it would replicate what they did, and it would, like you said, it would add longevity to Jones's career.
Yeah. Well, let me get you guys to touch on this real quick, because I know this is a big talk right now, and I wrote an article about it this week. I put it on the website. At what point would you be comfortable with your team taking Jalen Smith? At what point do you say, this round, if he's there, he's going to probably miss this season, okay, I'll give him a shot?
Man.
I mean, because, like I said, the film shows that he is a top 10 NFL prospect.
But the thing is, like, it's not just an ACL tear. It's
right.
Yeah, it's tissue, ligaments. It's all that. I mean, some people come back from it, some people don't. Like, look at Marcus Lattimore. I mean, he had basically the same injury, first round talent, and just could never get over it. I think that's the scary thing. I mean, I love Jalen Smith. I mean, he's working hard. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. There's no questions about his character. There's no question about his game film. But that injury is just scary. So honestly, I would take him in the 5th round. I'd take that risk.
See, I'm a little different about it. I'm more of the let him sit for a year. I wouldn't mind seeing a team grab him in the late 2nd, early 3rd. Depending on his recheck, not a lot of info came out about it. The recheck happened, I think it was Tuesday or Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. But unless it came back extremely negative, then yeah, I understand the 4th, 5th draft pick on him. But he's way too. I mean, it's way too much reward to sit back and let another team grab him, say in the 3rd round. I would feel confident grabbing him in the late 2nd.
Yeah, I'm there at that point. I'm more of a 3rd round guy on him. I like his potential. I like everything about him. He's doing all the right things in terms of trying to get himself back. He's working out physically. He is showing that, at least from a physicality standpoint, he's solid. The question there is always going to be the nerves at this point, and the feeling that he has, and then the confidence that he has to move in the ways that a football player in his position have to. And so we're still a long ways from seeing that part. I like what I saw of the videos he's posted on Twitter, the picture or the videos he's posted on Instagram, or pictures he's posted on Instagram of him working out. It's showing that he's trying his best to make sure that he is at his top when he's physically and medically cleared to come back. However, it is a risk, and until we get all the results back and until he is back on that field, there's still going to be that risk. And so if somebody takes him in the 2nd round, I can't blame him. Personally, I'm more of a 3rd round guy on him at this point. And of course, unless something really bad comes back, and then obviously he drops even lower.
Yeah, I mean, I see all the points, certainly.
On our draft, we have the Browns taking Miles Jack, kind of a similar knee injury, not to that extreme, but say they have 10 picks in the draft now. Say if they do end up getting Jack in the draft, and they have the 77th, which is third round pick, and then in the fourth round they have the 99th, the 100th, the 138th, and the 141st. So they have Smith is there. Why wouldn't you grab him? You know, they're not a team that needs instant production. They could wait the year or maybe even year and a half that it would take for Smith to dip back to normal if he ever does dip back there. But they wouldn't need that instant production. I think that would be a great place for him to play. And I know, like, Cleveland really isn't a great place for anybody to play, but I think that would be an interesting one just because, you know, they're a team that doesn't need that instant on the field gratification.
Yeah, I think they're a team definitely in play. I know the Bengals have been linked to him for some reports. You know, and I think that he's an interesting prospect for sure. It is a shame because, I mean, like we said, we watched the kid on film. You see the things he does on the field. The talent is definitely there. He's definitely a special special kind of player, and he definitely shows that each and every week when he played. But yeah, it's a scary thing there. But kind of moving to the next topic here, I know we're kind of doing this round table because I'm just having fun with this. So I'm glad that we had the four of us doing this. We haven't done this before. What about some of these late third-day draft picks? You know, some of these guys are under the radar you guys have seen. Matthew, we can get you started there. Who's the guy in that third day, maybe that 5th through 7th range that you might see your team getting and be really excited about, really under-the-radar player?
You had to go 5th, didn't you? You know, 4th round, and he's a third-day player, but I think he's going to drop to the 4th round. I'm excited about where Malcolm Mitchell goes. I think Malcolm Mitchell has a lot of potential. Of course, there have been some, at least media out there that have been so high to call him, you know, or at least when he's you know fully healthy and all in, he seems to be kind of that guy that could very well mimic an AJ Green with his style of play. Obviously, not to the full talent level of AJ Green, at least at this point. But somebody who's definitely well worth a look there. Of course, I mean, you had to put me on the spot right before that, but I like him. If I had to go late round, I like Blake Martinez out of Stanford, inside linebacker.
Yeah.
I like him a lot because I think that he has a lot of potential. I think he is very intelligent, obviously going to Stanford. But at the same time, I think he fits into this Bengals team very well if he's there. He's somebody that I think the Bengals could use in the long run. He's definitely a depth move. And I think he's somebody that's going to be on the 53-man roster come week 1. I think he has that potential for any team in the NFL this year.
I'll go next. My two guys, I got two, kind of similar to what Matt did. My first one, inside linebacker, Tyler Matakevich out of Temple. Great.
Yeah.
He's going to go probably 5th round just because his athleticism isn't up there with guys like Miles Jack and Jalen Smith. But this guy's got probably the best instincts out of any linebacker prospect that's ever come out. You know, he was he had 500 tackles in his career. Just instincts out of the chart. Has a nose to the ball. At the Senior Bowl, had like 7 straight tackles. It was outstanding watching this kid's tape and what he was able to do. My second one, kind of almost like a homer pick right here. Joe Schobert out of Wisconsin, can play both inside and outside linebacker. Great in coverage, very underrated in that aspect of his game. And then getting to the passer, he's outstanding at it. And you know, coming from Wisconsin, a lot of it goes unnoticed. But he could have a huge impact on a team. He's probably going to be a guy that goes early 4th, maybe mid 4th round.
I guess that means, well, it's my turn. And, well, this guy, actually I haven't seen much talked about him at all. I mean, it's not really crazy to understand why, but Victor Ochi from Stony Brook Seawolves. I mean, this guy, I've only gotten to see a few game tapes of him, but my word, this guy has just a tremendous punch off the line of scrimmage. He can play, also he's a defensive end, I should probably mention that. But he can play standing up, hands down, anything. He's strong off the edge. He just has quick speed. I mean, obviously there was lower competition, but I mean, he was active all the time. He was tough. He's a heavy tackler. I mean, he just dominated that entire. He dominated like every game I watched him play. Sure, there's some raw aspects to him. I mean, he needs to improve his snap anticipation, and he needs to, get better, around the corner, But at the same time, he can definitely be coaching those aspects. He might take a little while to get used to. I see him kind of as like a Dante Moak, who I was actually really high on. But I mean, this guy has a ton of potential, but it's probably going to take him a little while, to get used to the NFL. But I mean, he certainly has a high ceiling. I mean, he has size, the arm length. He can bull rush. He doesn't lose momentum. I really feel like Victor Ochi is someone to definitely look out for, and I think that, although he went against, lower competition, I think that getting to the NFL and, playing up to speed and getting everything, I think he could actually be a very decent player in the NFL.
So, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to take a total softball on this one because it's so easy to talk about this kid's athleticism and what he can really do for an NFL team. But Keenan Reynolds from Navy, the quarterback there who broke the all-time rushing touchdown record in the NCAA, we obviously know he's not going to play quarterback in the NFL. We know that's the case there. But he's an athlete that can really go in there and do big things. Obviously, a kid you definitely want to have in your locker room as far as, that influence and everything there. He's shown the ball skills. He's shown the rushing skills, obviously. He's done a lot of great things in Navy. I think he can go somewhere and really be a scat back for someone. I think he can really go in there. He'll probably go, knowing the NFL, how it goes. He'll probably end up being a Belichick player who Belichick makes to, be the next Julian Edelman and, does these amazing things. We all go, oh, son of a bitch, someone should have drafted that guy for the Patriots, got a hold of him.
Yeah.
I think on the other side, and this is totally my homer pick here, so Dylan, don't be offended, don't be worried about the homer pick. Romeo Okwara from Notre Dame was a guy that his 4 years there, he got better and better. His senior year had 9.5 sacks and played some pretty stout competition. And he was the guy that really stepped up when the team had a ton of injuries, really stepped up and did things for them. I like Okwara a lot. I think someone's going to take him that 6th, 7th round range. They're going to be really happy with what they get from him.
I can get behind that. I think
you and those Notre Dame picks, man.
Yeah,
I know. Well, hey, to be fair, my back is, with my other show, I do get Notre Dame press cred, so I'm down there a lot. So I guess
completely understandable.
Yeah, that's how I am with Penn State. I mean, I could sit here and tell you how much I love Austin Johnson and Carl Nassib. I understand.
Where's the Christian Hackenberg love?
Actually, Hackenberg, I actually do like him a lot. I know, I do, and it's not based on what he's done. Like, this man can read defenses like there's no tomorrow. But you look at that offensive line, and he was just. It was like watching David Carr all over again. Not Derek, David Carr. Remember him? And
oh, yeah.
I think if Hackenberg was put in the right situation, and given an actual offensive line, I think he could. This is going to get some more hate for me. I already picked the Bengals, but I think Hackenberg could be Carson Palmer 2.0.
I think he could end up. I think Obi is going to want him. I honestly do.
Mm-hmm.
I think those mid rounds, Obi's going to need a backup for Osweiler. I think he's going to take a chance on him.
Yeah, or I could see Houston. Yeah, well, not Houston. Wow. I could see the Broncos taking him too.
Yeah, I can see that. We know at some point in this draft the Broncos will take a quarterback.
Yeah.
You have to think like the Cowboys. We know at some point in those middle rounds the Cowboys are going to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
think
Talking,
the most,
talking
the
about
most,
the quarterbacks, looking back on it, we're probably going to look at ourselves like we're dumb. Who do you guys think is going to be the best out of this quarterback class?
Matthew, you're first.
you already know what my overall thought is, at least between the two.
Right.
Weirdly enough, I'm not even gonna stick in there. I'm kind of, and I'm Ohio State, so this is really hard for me to say. I think Christian Hackenberg, in terms of NFL career, I like his arm strength. I like his accuracy. I think there's a few things he needs to work on with at least foot skill. But I honestly think, in terms of developmental talent, if he's put in the right situation, and saying this, of course, means that I'm gonna sit there and say that Tom Brady has a couple years left. But somebody like a New England Patriots with Bill Belichick would almost be the perfect fit for Christian Hackenberg. Somebody who can help him develop, help him come into his own, and 2, maybe 3 years down the road, he's starting in New England with Tom Brady finally going, you know what, I'm done. Or at least, finally kind of coming to the fact of, and the realization that he can't play for the rest of his life and he has to go home to Giselle, because that's a terrible, terrible thing. But I honestly think, put in the right situation, Hackenberg is actually one of those quarterbacks who is almost kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger, somebody who's not so high on the radar, but at the same time, when somebody picks him and you see him in game situation, you sit there and say, that wasn't a terrible pick. And in all honesty, I couldn't blame a team that would pick him.
Yeah. I think, out of the two, I think Wentz will end up being the better quarterback, honestly. I just think, as far as size, arm strength, everything there. And I do like Goff, just not as much as I like the upside of Wentz. But if you go outside the two, I really, really like Dak Prescott from Mississippi State. I think that, honestly, my honest opinion is I think the Dallas Cowboys draft in the 3rd round. I think that they bring him in to back up Romo and kind of learn under him for a year or so. I think he has a lot of talent. We know the accuracy is there. We know the athleticism. He's played in high-level competition year in and year out. He played in an NFL training camp basically in the SEC for 4 seasons. So I think that he can really be a guy who goes in there and really learns an offense, gets a chance to do some things, and could be a pretty special player for the NFL.
I can agree on that. I'm actually really high on Dak Prescott. I like him a lot. But for me, it's Paxton Lynch. Now, I understand he's very raw. He has to learn, how to read defenses better, and he also needs to go under center. But, his arm strength and just his ability to move and throw the ball in, tight windows. There's a lot to like about Paxton Lynch. He has size. He's shown that he's not afraid to force the ball into areas. And, sure, that might be a little iffy, but when you see his ball placement, it's crazy. The biggest concern with him is obviously football IQ, and really that's about it. Sure, there's going to be times where he has to read through his progressions, but it's going to take time. And I think Paxton Lynch is pretty much going to be one of those guys that has a really high ceiling, but he also needs to go to the right place. So I think he'd work well in a Chip Kelly type offense, but if they were to start him day one, I don't think he's going to have a successful career. But the other guy that I actually really, 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 really like, that I don't know why no one's talking about, is Connor Cook.
Yeah.
I remember last year whenever everyone was talking about, how he'd be the number one, quarterback, and he stayed an extra year. But, Connor Cook, he's accurate. He reads defenses. It just disappoints me that he's dropped so much. He had some concerns because of the shoulder injury. I know that, but he's done pretty well. I think he's very NFL ready. good, good size, experience in the pro style offense, strong arm, beautiful throws, tight windows. But I just don't think he's one of those guys who's gonna, drop back and have to, throw like 50 times a game or something like that. I think he's one of those guys who's gonna be like, I wouldn't say Alex Smith, but I'd say he's kind of like an Andy Dalton, if that makes any sense. Good athleticism, accuracy needs to improve in some areas, but I think Connor Cook's actually going to be a pretty decent quarterback in the NFL.
So I'm gonna throw two different names out there. Obviously, out of the 1 and 2, between Wentz and Goff, I think Wentz is gonna have the better career. Not just going to I don't want to say solidified team because I really am not a big fan of Philadelphia, where I think he's gonna land. But just the talent levels outright his ceiling's way higher than Goff's, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the later rounds, this is a guy I think is going to be a phenomenal pro, and I didn't like him in college because the attitude's not there. Cardale Jones, Ohio State, a guy that probably the most talented quarterback in the draft, in all honesty. Kind of fell just because his concerns, on the field, off the field. This is a guy I think that when he gets drafted by the Denver Broncos, that's who I'm pretty sure is going to take him. He's going to be a great pro. He's probably going to win a couple of Super Bowls with this team if they keep that defense around. And after 2 years of sitting, I think he could be a phenomenal talent in this league.
I could see that. I think him and Lynch need to sit. If they can sit and learn being like the right offense and actually have an offensive line that can help them, I think that both those guys could actually be number 1 and number 2 from this draft.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said they need to sit. I think all 4, we say 4, but there's 7 that you could talk about. I think everyone in this class needs to sit at the quarterback position. There's not really a day 1 starter. You could almost say Goff is, just because his football intelligence is supposedly out of this world. And then Wentz is a step above everyone with his talent. But I think they're all projects. And that's why I was shocked to see 2 teams trade up just for the 1 and 2.
Yeah, I can agree on that.
Yeah. All right, guys. So last time before we get out of here, and thanks again, guys. This was awesome. Had a ton of fun doing this. There is the rumored leak of the Thursday night color rush jerseys. The Bengals potentially wearing black and white unis for that game against Miami Week 4. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll go first. From what I've heard, that's I'm not gonna say it's 100% bullshit, but it's not true. But if it is, I don't know how I feel about that because black and white, it looked kind of goofy. I looked at a couple of the other ones. I don't know if you guys saw the Cardinals color rush uniform, but it was awful. It was terrible. It was like a mustard yellow. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. No, I don't know if those are true, but if it is, the black and white is interesting to me. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but it'd be kind of goofy to watch.
I think it would be goofy, but at the same time, I would prefer it over all orange.
Yeah.
I think
all orange versus
have it
all
look like a pumpkin for Halloween or something.
Yeah, I think also one thing that I wish that they would do is you've seen the Memphis their helmets in college, how it's all metallic. I would love it if the Cincinnati Bengals got that. That would just, please do that somehow. Please just do it.
That'd be sick.
But
Yeah.
I'm all for white. I'm all for the white and black. I like that a lot.
Go ahead,
But
Tim.
that's just me.
Go ahead, Tim. I'll finish it up.
Matthew, how we do have the picking up or putting down for our weekly segment that we didn't do this week, obviously. I would pick that up. I think it'd be fun. Since the Bengals been in existence, we've been known for black, orange, and white to be in their unis. So to see a non-orange in a Bengal uniform for the first time would be really interesting. And I'm with Sean. the all orange versus the all teal for that Thursday night game against Miami would be so hideous in the first place. But I think that could be a pretty fun thing if they did kind of go a little different route. Plus, if you're from the area, the Cincinnati Zoo with the Bengal Tiger Legion being part of the reason for the franchise's name. The Bengal Tigers in the zoo are black and white, so I think it could be a cool tribute to Cincinnati kind of thing.
I'd be down with that. I mean, the only difference is I kind of don't live in Cincinnati anymore, so
Fair enough.
yeah.
So, I mean, they're playing the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. So my only question to what you pair that up with is what are the Dolphins wearing? And please don't tell me teal, because that would just be bad. All teal. For the most part, I'm fine with the black and white. Of course, Snow Tigers. Gotta give love to them. But one of the big things I think that the Bengals have is their jerseys aren't over the top. They look clean. Most people know what they look like, and it's not one that you're kind of sitting there scratching your head going, "Why are they wearing that?" Probably the biggest thing there would have been the Jets versus the Bills last year, where it was Christmas colors.
Yeah.
But
that's happening again this year too.
Is it happening again this year?
Yep.
So basically, if you're colorblind, I'm sorry. On behalf of anybody that has anything to do with talking about the NFL, I'm sorry. But no, I'm not against it. I think it would continue with that clean look that the Bengals have. But at the same time, a little pop of color may not be such a bad thing for the Bengals. Just don't do all orange.
You mentioned they were playing the Dolphins. According to the Color Rush, the week, they're gonna be the ones wearing the all orange.
Well,
Yeah.
so basically, we're just
forgot
going to
about
confuse everybody. The Bengals playing the Bengals. No,
It's just like Madden.
But the question is, which year of the Bengals are you playing? So the other thing we like to do, and I'm gonna actually let Dylan do this too, since I do it every single week, and of course Tim is going to be at the draft next week. We'll have Matt P with us, Matt Rosa, whatever you want to call him. He will be with us next week. But one thing we like to do before closing out the show is, Dylan, why don't you this week talk about the articles that are really kind of the highlight of the week for Stripe Hype?
Today I finished up typing out a mock draft, a 2-round mock, and then literally 5 minutes later, the trade occurred between the Eagles and the Browns. So that completely destroyed that. But other than the mock draft, I have a draft spotlight coming out. I'm probably going to hit on Eli Apple out of Ohio State, a cornerback that could potentially be on the Bengals roster next season. And then just more draft coverage. I know one of our writers, Jimmy Malco, came out with a Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard duo that was posted today. So if anyone gets a chance, go ahead and read that. Otherwise, draft coverage is where it's at this week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Tim, do you want to do the honor?
Yeah, why not? So, that being said, here we're going to close out this week's edition of Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com. Dylan, Sean, thank you guys so much for joining us doing this. It was really fun to do this mock draft and kind of touch on some big hot topics in the draft. So that was a lot of fun. Really appreciate the time, guys. Thank you all for tuning in to our show each and every week. Whether you're checking on iTunes, on the SoundCloud website itself, or when Matthew puts on YouTube, a really cool thing we have. Be sure to check us out each and every week. Check out all of our articles on StripeHype.com, because we're working very hard to continue to give you guys very good articles each and every day. A lot of new stuff just about 3 or 4 times a week now. We definitely are working our asses off to make this a good website for you guys. Everyone, get ready. We're 8 days away from one of the most fun days of the year. Have a good week, everyone, and hoo-day.